Panther Nation, the C3 podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com.
I had fun, man. Just out, you guys joking. We working at the same time. Putting the work in as a team. Like I said, I'm just glad to be with the guys.
My favorite night of the week.
We're gonna go out there and we're playing to win. We're not out here just to just show up. We're out here to win.
I don't want guys that want to win, because really, who doesn't? Nobody wants to win. Everybody wants to win. I want players that hate to lose.
This embodies everything that we are as a team, as an organization. Our motto is keep pounding. And that's what we do. You know what I'm saying?
Panther fans, the C3 Carolina Panthers podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. Do it, my buddies. Tonight I'm here with Mel Mayock and a bunch of people in the chat room already getting started. Mel, what's up, dude?
What's going on, Professor? It's good to be back, man. I had to take a week off last week, get ready for this combine, get ready for this free agency. Lots to talk about. Let's do it. It's good to be here.
My name is Tony Dunn. You can follow me on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. We encourage you to subscribe to the show. We've got 799 YouTube subscribers. We've got to get to 1,000 by the beginning of the season to prove to YouTube we are awesome. And you can help us do that by smashing that thumbs up button, by subscribing to the show, and telling a friend. Drop it on Facebook, Periscope, Twitter, wherever you hang out. Tell a Panthers fan about the podcast. We appreciate it. You can follow. You can even donate to the show. All of that information is in the show links on YouTube and on the website. All right. Tonight's episode is the 5th episode of the season. Hopefully Joey is going to join us a little bit later. And tonight's show is Free Agency is a Gano, episode 18.5, where we're going to talk about tonight Gano's contract with an extension, potential free agents, big-name free agents hitting the market, or at least rumors that they will be hitting the market, as well as a lot to talk about the combine. So, Mel, we'll start with Gano. He signed today a $17 million 4-year deal, $17 million, $9 million guaranteed, makes him the second highest paid kicker in the league. He's coming off a Pro Bowl season where I think he just missed one kick on the year.
Yeah.
And really had up and down time in Carolina. But this seemed inevitable at this point. They were thinking about using the franchise tag on Graham Gano, but it seems like they've invested in him after a really troubled beginning to the 2017 season, where they drafted a potential replacement, and he was very outspoken about how he didn't feel good about the situation and the relationship him with the team, but they repaired it over the season. How do you feel about this news of Graham Gano being with us for 4 more years?
Well, you're right, Professor. It was a rocky year. I mean, I was at a game last year. I believe it was maybe the Philadelphia game. There were a couple of games where Ron Rivera passed on kicking 51, 52-yard kicks, and Gano took exception to it. Would walk out onto the field, came out in the second half, and was kicking the ball from the exact spot where the coach passed it up and was drilling the kicks. So it was some turmoil there. But honestly, I would, in hindsight, and I said it all along, and this was a Dave Gettleman move as well as a Marty Herney move, I would have preferred to go with Harrison Butker, because he's younger, has a longer future ahead of him, and much cheaper. That being said, Gano was the number 1 rated kicker in the league last year, and rumors were Gettleman was going to come after him hard in free agency and make a very aggressive offer to get him away from Carolina. Marty Herney was able to lock him up and do it for less than what the cost of the franchise tag would have been. So, all in all, it's a good move.
How bizarre of a story is it that Graham Gano found himself really on the outside looking in, having to prove himself in training camp with the general manager and the coaching staff? There was clear tension in the air to start the season. It continued throughout the season. Dave Gettleman was clearly in the background, he had a hand in that because he drafted Harrison Butker. And then after the season and all the things that go on, it's Dave Gettleman that could potentially be courting him in free agency.
You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, if you're Graham Gano, I don't believe. Well, I won't say I don't believe it. Like, I'm trying to say whoever has reported that was who they would pursue in free agency. I'm not saying they're wrong. It's like, how can you believe that could be a real possibility if you're Graham Gano going to the place where the GM really did not show a lot of any confidence in you? And it just seems bizarre. Salesman, you can find him. I think it's Panthers salesman on Twitter. He's a huge Panther fan. You'll know his Twitter handle when you see it. He said something funny that, like, Dave Gettleman pulled the rope-a-dope and was able to trick the Carolina Panthers into overpaying for Graham Gano so he could then go and pay Norwell. I did see there's already people in the chat room talking about we don't want to talk about Harrison Butker. I saw Amanda Helms on Twitter, Amanda Helms has gotten to the point where she don't like to put up with anybody's crap, especially Panther fans. She's like, I got the least patience from crap from Panther fans. And she's like, don't talk, George, we got Marty Herney, move on. Like, no, she just keeps going on. She'll get mad when we hit free agency and all the speculation. She's going to get mad at some people for being like, well, we should have paid Randy Moss. She's probably mad at me for something like that. But she said, don't say anything about Butker on my timeline. I'm going to mute it. And I wrote, like, vertically Butker, and then I wrote like a story, so the first letter of each line spelled his name.
And probably 30 out of 32 GMs would have done the same thing. I mean, Gettleman and Herney both made that same decision. There's a lot of Panther fans that were on the Butker train, and I was one of them. But you know what? It's a kicker. So at the end of the day, it's not the biggest story in the world. I mean,
let's not talk about Butker. Let's talk about Gano, though. I do think that on both sides of the discussion, there is a realistic there are realistic concerns and realistic reasons to keep him, right? So realistic concerns of why this would not be necessarily a wise move with that money. And on the other hand, there are some real reasonable arguments about how this is the best option for the team. Point out this is Gano is a good option for the team because he's a veteran. He's coming off of a good season, and he had a few years. He's kind of had a renaissance with the Panthers and then some troubled moments. And then last year, maybe signaling that he's healthy, that, he was injured at one point. Maybe
I think that's the key. 2 years ago when Panther fans got so angry at him, missing that opening day kick against the Broncos and really set the whole season into a free fall. Yeah, he was playing injured throughout that year. So honestly, I think the big story here is you brought in some competition to a guy who had some lingering injuries. He worked extra hard, and competition is good, right? I think you need more of that across the board. Nobody should be a sacred cow on the team, and I think that was the difference, honestly. And at this point, Gano is a steadying force. And not only is he a very good kicker for field goals and extra points, but he's a wonderful kickoff artist. I mean, he kicks the ball out of the end zone anytime you want him to, the highest percentage in the league. So that played into it too.
Yeah. And as Lynn said, is that Gano is better than some unknown random kicker, as well as some people commenting on Twitter they brought up some good points, and that is that simply that Gano is better than being in a situation like Tampa Bay or Chicago.
Exactly. I mean, they can cost you some games for sure.
Now, on the other side of the coin, I do want to point out this is that I was at that game with you at that Saints game. Now, you could argue that they did not kick him because they thought that they punted the ball. So, I mean, even like maybe that they were scared of Drew Brees so much. They were clearly, the coaching staff clearly had reservations of Gano beyond 50.
Right.
Anytime it got into 45 and beyond, you saw them demonstrating some concerns. Then on top of that is Gano has missed he's missed kicks at important times. Is that he's been able to make a lot of kicks, but they seem to me at moments in the game where you should make those kicks. The times you really needed him to make kicks, there have been some moments where he has not met the challenge. Pointing back to the Super Bowl, then I firmly believe that missed kick at the beginning of that Denver game the following year really set the tone. It could have been a saving grace. It's not that like he ruined the Panthers season, but Cam Newton leads a drive down the field late in that game, puts you in a position to pull out a win against the team that you just lost in the Super Bowl. The whole dynamics of the team, the resiliency of the team, the outlook could have been different. Now, this is a bunch of wouldas, shouldas, and couldas, right? I understand that. But I do think that Gano leaves something to be – he's not the greatest. Just not he is inconsistent when we need him to be clutch.
I agree, but I also do think time will tell. I mean, only they know how much injuries played a part in that. If he was playing with like a sore arch and things of that nature, could make a huge difference. So at this point, we just got to trust the process, move on.
Right on. All right. So speaking of the process, part of the process is teams are announcing the franchise tag or their intentions about the franchise tag. I think that they have actually. I think the 4th is when they could do it. So is that you've had LaMarcus Joyner tagged in by the Rams. You've had the guy from Dallas tagged. What was his name? Lawrence something.
DeMarcus Lawrence. Lawrence.
Mm-hmm. So you've got these franchise tags going out. Gano was potentially in the discussion for getting one of those franchise tags. He did not. They've managed to work out this deal. We have not heard any reports that Norwell or Star Lotulelei would be getting the franchise tags for the team. We don't know yet, but I haven't heard anything suggesting that they would. But there's some other important names throughout the league that are exciting, that are also rumored to not be getting the franchise tag. Well, clearly Sammy Watkins will not be getting it since LaMarcus Joyner did. But it does, the reports are saying that LA wants to work out a deal with Sammy Watkins, but also the Jaguars will not be tagging Allen Robinson. So these are two names that are exciting to Panther fans on a team that we could really use some help at wide receiver. Tell me, Mel, where do you think, what does this suggest about, where are the Panthers with potentially landing one of these guys with $29 million in cap space? And do you have a preference, or is either one a good addition?
Well, I've seen people argue and put out there that, somebody like Robinson is going to conflict playing the same X position that they have been saying Funchess should be playing. I take exception to that, though, because you got to upgrade talent when you can. And Allen Robinson, when healthy, and he is coming off of an ACL tear, so we would have to be patient with him. He may not be the same Allen Robinson the first year in, but he is head and shoulders better than Funchess. I think Allen Robinson's a top 5 wide receiver in this league. And if you get a chance to add him, work some contracts, rework some contracts, and add that talent. Funchess is going – this is the last year of his deal. Who's to say that we're going to be able to sign him? Robinson is worth it. Take the talent when you can get it. Now, Sammy Watkins, I'm not sold on, man. To me, he's too much like Kelvin Benjamin, in my opinion. I mean, he has not proven to stay healthy. He's had screws in his foot. Buffalo fans will tell you quickly, as soon as you start to count on him, he falls apart. So I would pass on Sammy Watkins, even though it's the nice Clemson connection. But Allen Robinson gets me excited for sure.
Yeah, the concerns with both players, the concerns surrounding Allen Robinson are that knee injury, but you've seen guys return from ACL injuries and be effective.
You'd have to trust the doctor. You'd have to have the doctor look at it. But
think Todd Gurley
Right.
I mean, the stories do exist, and it's becoming more and more frequent. The timeline is also important. Sometimes it takes
Week
2
1.
years before guys get fully back. I have seen. I mean, this was at least a month or 2 months ago. Allen Robinson running pretty vigorously on the treadmill with that knee.
And I know one guy on this show that really wanted Allen Robinson in the draft, and that was you. You were, I mean, I was up on him, but you were calling for him when we took Kelvin Benjamin at that pick, at that spot. So it'd be nice to have it come full circle. By the way, Panther fans, join us draft night. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun, especially when we pick in the mid to late 20s, because the professor is 3-4 sheets to the wind by the time we get there. So it gets real interesting.
Think about this is that right now, today makes 3 weeks since I've drank any alcohol.
Good for you, bro.
And I've given up alcohol for Lent. And by that point, if I decide to go back and make that kind of like one of the debut moments, it could get messy, right?
It could be epic.
I was high on Allen Robinson specifically is that I thought that he had the skill set that was going to make him a next level athlete when it comes at the pro level.
Yeah.
That was the year we drafted Kelvin Benjamin. I had been feeling pretty good at that moment. When we drafted, we lost camera. Let me see. So let me see if I can bring these guys back. Here we go. I have been feeling. There we go. We're back.
There we go. All right.
So this wouldn't be a good show unless there was some technical difficulties at some point. Joe Riolano's joining us. Joey, how you doing?
I'm good. Ran long with studying social studies. Apologies.
No problem, man.
No, social studies is an important study. I was going to say that I was high on Allen Robinson. He did miss. My favorite story about Allen Robinson is that he missed an entire year of high school football because he grew something to the effect of like 6 inches in 6 weeks. And he had to sit out a year of football because he had not only suffered from growing pains, but was unable to acclimate to his new man body, like his new giant limbs. So is that he has turned out to be great. Just think this: you don't like the woulda, shoulda, coulda's moments. The YouTube chat doesn't have a lot of patience for it. We could have drafted Allen Robinson that year and been talking about an extension rather than trying to get him in free agency. But Joey, we were just noting that Allen Robinson and Sammy Watkins do not appear to be getting franchised by their respective teams, and they will be on free agency. Now, a lot of people have said that Allen Robinson is out of our price range, and really Sammy Watkins will be as well. What we got here, though, is a lot of people have pinned the name Mike Wallace to the Carolina Panthers. But I got to say this. A one-legged Allen Robinson is better to me than a no-handed Mike Wallace. So, Joey, you got any just thoughts about where the Panthers should go on free agency before we move on to Norwell and Starr? Maybe not. We lost Joe. Mel, are you still there?
I'm here, man.
All right. Okay. Norwell's heading to the Giants, it appears. It says that the Giants will be courting him.
I'm telling you, man, you pay $14 million for a guard. Whew. Yeah, that's going to set your team back.
He is one of top guards in the league.
He is, but
I mean, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. You did not see gaping huge holes on the left side of our line, though, did you? I mean, he did some great protection, but it's not like he was a bulldozer and just open lanes for Stewart and McCaffrey. I'm not paying him.
He is only one man, and you do have to count on the play of your teammates. So
that's why I'm not giving him $14 million.
I agree. it's a lot of money. It certainly is. But you just hate to lose him and then turn around and lose Star as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you lose some foundation on both sides of the line. You know, that's tough.
Well, you know, there's going to be there is a team that doesn't have an offensive line that played particularly well that's going to go after it in free agency. So if you can't afford to pay him kind of towards the top end of things, you got to expect Norwell to be gone. Yeah. I think that while it might hurt for him to go, you have to, let's just say this, is we're going to have to pay whatever he needs for him to stay. And now, on the other hand, the combine, we're going to talk about it more in detail, is that the offensive line help in the combine is not an option. There's just not the guys there that seemingly are going to be good at this point. There's not the standout. It's very thin. So that is going to only inflate the value of these guys even more. Now, when it comes to Norwell, is that he is a very important talent to this offensive line, one of the better talents. How are you going to replace him? Is that you cannot, if we can't get it in the draft, and more than likely there's not going to be a lot of help in free agency, the only answer to me is, in the words of Dave Gettleman, on the roster.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's where your help is going to come from, and that would be in the form of
Taylor Moton.
Yeah. He's going to have to step up. He is going to be the man, the next man up, so to speak.
All right, so Norwell, to me, if I had my choice, Norwell would be the one we kept out of those two players. I think he would be a better I think he would be more helpful to have. While both players are good, I think that we'd be able to get by without Starr a little bit easier than we are going to be able to get by without Norwell. But we do have Moton, who is going to have to answer the call.
Yeah. And like Joe says, Moton will have to step up. And then you also have Tyler Larson, too, right, who played center for us last year, could also play guard. But on the flip side, if Starr leaving, you're going to have Vernon Butler step up. Vernon Butler's going to have to play better than he has.
There's question marks on both sides on those, if those guys can answer the call, right? Their number's going to be called. Moton's going to his number's going to be called on one side, and then Vernon Butler's number's going to be called on the other.
Yeah.
There's going to be less forgiveness with Vernon Butler because he's had 2 years under his belt. He was a higher pick, so he's going to have to show out and be able to do whatever we need. Moton, you're going to have a little bit more forgiveness for him, but there's still going to be high expectations and big shoes to fill. Now, since we left guys last week, Jonathan Stewart, the Carolina Panthers have released, and this is old news at this point because it happened the day after the show. We were talking about it last week, Joe and I, about how it was expected that Jonathan Stewart would be gone and that it was time, but it's finally happened. It happened, I believe, a Wednesday of last week where the Panthers released their all-time leading rusher in Jonathan Stewart. Guys, where are we at now without Jonathan Stewart, and how do you guys feel about his departure from Carolina?
Go ahead, Joe.
I don't know that it's going to be next man up in this case. I think Carolina's going to look for a running back in the draft. I'm not saying they're springing on one in the first round. I'm not at all saying that.
Which they could. They could.
I do think later in the draft, they will be looking for someone.
Well, Professor, like you said, it's not a very deep draft for linemen. It is a very deep draft for running back. So this is a good year to address that. And don't count out Cap. Cameron Artis-Payne.
Right. I'm not saying right. You're absolutely right. I'm not saying we're going to get rid of him. I just don't know
I agree with you. It's too deep of a draft. It's too deep of a draft to not address it here. I mean,
Right.
I'm very excited about some of these.
100% confident in Cap, and they knew, the shadow of a doubt that he's the next man up. Maybe it's more of an afterthought, but I don't think they feel that way.
No, I don't even think Cameron Artis-Payne was going to get will have an opportunity to be that guy, period. Despite what his potential is, despite what his play is, I think that his time in Carolina has probably come to an end, and we just haven't ever seen it, unfortunately.
Now, did you hear what your boy Mike Tolbert had to say about Cameron Artis-Payne?
What did he say?
He said from his experience in Norv Turner's offense and his experience with Cameron Artis-Payne, he believes Cameron Artis-Payne very likely could be a big star in the Norv Turner offense.
If that is the case, if he said that, dude, which I don't have any reason to doubt you because you're my friend and you know how I feel about Cameron Artis-Payne, I love to hear that. So if that is truly the case, then I will be excited. But I do think that you guys are right. I think that the Panthers are going to be looking to make to acquire a contributor in this draft, and I think they can. We'll talk about some of that, though. Jonathan Stewart clearly declined over the past 2 years, and really I would say these are the best of terms that you can part ways with a guy of his status and the history that we have together between his injuries, his contract, Marty Hurney. There's a lot of kind of things that aren't his fault at all, and no one has ever pinned on him, but there are some kind of complexities surrounding the story that make it interesting. And I would say to this, in 2011 or 2012, when Marty Hurney was fired, in what world did you believe that Jonathan Stewart would still be here in 2017?
You think he plays? You think he plays in 18?
I think so. I mean, I think he should make a roster, but I think he would just be a backup.
Well, think about this. He's a Northwest kid. He loves the Northwest. He played at Oregon. Who's a Northwestern team that needs a running back?
Seattle.
Badly.
Yeah, and he's used to running with no offensive line. So, I mean, like, he'll fit right in. I think that is that, Jonathan Stewart, we saw, and then on top of this, that he was cut by Marty Hurney. Right. I mean, the irony. I mean, like you said earlier, you can't make this crap up. So to you, Jonathan Stewart, we say salute you specifically because we know that you are Lynn's darling, because you made Lynn's. You sit there and played the dang piano for Lynn. How wonderful. We will miss you. We always have loved those backs, even though fans have talked junk about their contracts. That year we had double trouble was good enough for anybody when it comes to that. Yeah. All right. Let's do this. I want to encourage everybody. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. Please go ahead and subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, wherever you get your podcast. Hit that thumbs up button on YouTube, on Facebook, as well as give us a share on your timeline, a retweet. It will really help. Joey, I did want to turn to this, and I don't know if I saw maybe that you retweeted the tweet that I had about it. I was listening to Josh Norris's football podcast on Roto World, and I like Josh Norris. I feel like he's always complimentary of Cam Newton, so that's like one of my first things that I'm always interested in. And second, I feel like he's always been kind of fair, but specifically interested in the Carolina Panthers, and I, for some reason, want to say he has some sort of ties to WFNZ, where he maybe started as an intern a long time ago. I'm not 100% sure on that. But he said this as he was talking about how the Browns have to pick a quarterback at 1. And here is his discussion on his podcast today. You can check this out on rotoworld.com under the football podcast. And here we go. I just want you guys to hear this clip.
Weekend that apparently Saquon Barkley, multiple reports state that he is a viable option at number 1, and if not, he's most likely to be the second pick in the draft. I don't get it in either instance. I understand, and I don't blame you if Saquon Barkley is the number 1 prospect on your board. I'm not really even discussing Saquon Barkley in this instance. I'm saying that quarterback has to be the selection at number 1 and number 2. Now, the two teams are kind of in two different places, right? Let's start off with the Browns. The Browns haven't had a quarterback since what, like 1999, like in 20 years. I do not understand this discussion, this conversation, this argument that, look, they should take Saquon Barkley at number 1 and then number 4, just take whatever quarterback is left. That doesn't work in the NFL. It doesn't happen like that in the NFL. Teams don't settle for quarterback prospects. They locate, they identify, and they find prospects that they like and that they envision their offense run by, built around the face of their franchise, and they move on from there. That's what happens with quarterbacks in the top of the draft. Just look last year. I mean, did you think that the Texans were just going to sit there and stand by and wait for Deshaun Watson to get to them? Nope. They traded a future first. Same thing with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Previously, it was Jared Goff with the St. Louis/LA Rams and Philadelphia and Carson Wentz, right? You envision your franchise with a specific quarterback when you need one when you enter the draft, and that's the one you can take. You can't say, okay, we kind of like Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen, so whichever one or 2 or 3 are left at pick number 4, that's the one we're going to take. Again, it doesn't work in that regard. Identify the one that you like, and if they are good enough that you think that you should select them at number 4, then they're good enough to select at number 1. All
right, so then he goes on to say that the Giants and Gettleman also need to draft a quarterback at number 2, and it's time, even if you believe that Eli Manning is still got some time left or some tread on the tire, that you should still go ahead and make your mark on an organization and orient it towards the future. Now, I gotta say I disagree with this.
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I totally disagree with it.
I disagree. Here's my rationale for why I think that. First, I would say that this year the Browns are specifically a unique case because they hold 2 picks in the top 5. They hold the 1st and the 4th pick, right? You don't see that ever, right? So this is not just the standard. This is the only time we have to get a franchise quarterback. We have the number 1 pick, and we don't expect to have it in the future anymore. Now, that's not the case, is that the Browns have the 1st and the 4th. So there's no – and they've got like a billion other picks as well. Do. So that's unique there. But then I did mention him, and he has – and it's Twitter, so I'm not expecting a big conversation with him. But I did mention this to him on Twitter, is that even if that wasn't the case – and just say that you were approaching, hypothetically, a year where you didn't feel particularly enamored by any of the quarterbacks. You thought that there were guys that could potentially be the guy under the right circumstances. I'm thinking of a Blake Bortles type year of drafting a quarterback where you're not 100% sold, but you're sold as him as the best quarterback in that draft, as well as potentially could have the opportunity to translate to the NFL. I would say in that case, if you have Saquon Barkley there, there's still a reasonable argument that you should just say this, is I'm not going to be forced into a corner to draft a guy that I don't fully believe in. So I do think there's some things there. But in this case, like when you use that Carson Wentz and Jared Goff analogy, or Alex Smith and Aaron Rodgers, you have no idea fully what those guys are going to do in the NFL. So if you can have –
a lot of it has to do with scheme, coaching, fit, surrounding talent. So just because they're good one place doesn't mean they would have been somewhere else.
Yeah, and do you think that is like if the Rams would have picked Wentz, the Eagles would have picked Goff? They wouldn't have gone, nope, Goff was Wentz was our guy. We're out of this. So I think this is that if I was the Browns, I take dang Saquon Barkley at 1, and I pick my quarterback at 4, and I have no problem with it because I haven't ever picked a quarterback right in my whole career as a team. That's
Or
where I
better
feel
yet-
about this.
Or better yet, you go out there and you get that quarterback in free agency,
Exactly.
and then you load it up. But I got one thing to really show how wrong that statement was. You don't take a quarterback number one because quarterback's the most valuable position. And he mentioned the year 1999. Do you know who went number one in 1999? Tim Couch, quarterback to the Browns. How'd that work out? And they passed on people like Ricky Waters or Ricky Williams that year. So I mean, you can't just take a guy because he's number one because he's a quarterback. That's just ridiculous.
Well, and you have the 4. You have the number 4 pick.
Right. It's not
right. You have that a second top 5 pick.
Yeah.
In a draft where it's not thin at quarterback.
Right.
They are in the running for the number 1 quarterback in free agency. They are in the running for him.
Of course,
So
the report that you tweeted today, Joe, about the Vikings and what they're going to be willing to pay Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, that's a
great.
ton.
And all guaranteed. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and you know what? The Browns can pay him more. How
All right.
scary is that?
Yeah, so you're talking Kirk Cousins they are saying that Kirk Cousins could get reported $91 million over 3 years fully guaranteed.
That's ridiculous. And you know what? That's going to hurt every other team in the league. Cam Newton's going to be going, wait a minute, guys. My contract's coming up.
Right. What has Kirk Cousins done?
Right.
I took you guys to a Super Bowl.
I heard today an interesting stat. You know what Kirk Cousins' quarterback rating when trailing in the last 2 minutes of a ball game is? 51 quarterback rating.
Oh, God.
so I'm telling you.
That's terrible.
It's awful. I mean, $31 million a year. That's terrible.
I mean, that's what happened when you got money to spend. Now the Vikings, that's going to be hard for them to spend that. I mean, that's going to put a lot of stress on their organization.
And why in the heck do you do that? I mean, you went 13-3 last year, and I'm telling you, the best quarterback not named Cam Newton that I saw at Bank of America Stadium last year, other than Aaron Rodgers, was Case Keenum.
Mm-hmm.
He was darn good.
Why? You know you've got something good there.
And you could get him for $20 million probably. Yeah.
Why are you getting greedy?
I do think I'd rather have Kirk Cousins than Case Keenum.
I'm not arguing that, okay? But they have 2 other good quarterbacks on the roster.
Yeah, you no need to break the bank on a guy that we're not terribly – we don't know enough about. Now, if you have no option and you don't have a team around it and you need that as a jump start, then you can maybe see that like the Browns.
Right.
Or like the 49ers had to go and get with Jimmy G. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't anybody before that. But you have some guys. Case Keenum is not going to get that money. So, all right, let's talk about the Combine. Speaking of all these prospects and these draft picks, and Saquon Barkley, by the way, had the most impressive Combine statistics or measurements that I've ever seen.
I will get ridiculed for this in the public square, I guarantee you. But I would come very close, not the entire draft like Ricky Williams, but I would come close in trading a buttload of picks if the Panthers could trade up and get Saquon Barkley. Could you imagine? I mean, why give up? I mean, count on a 3rd round pick, trade your 1st, 2nd, and 2 third-round picks, move up and get Saquon Barkley and just call it a day and go to the Super Bowl. I mean, good grief.
It would be nice to see him and McCaffrey in the back on the field.
Holy crap.
It would be unbelievable. That's what it would be. It would be super cool.
It would be playing Madden on your PlayStation.
He weighs 200. Yeah, he weighs 233 pounds, and he ran a 4.42. No, 4.40. A 4.40 was official time.
Yeah.
4.4 flat. He has a 41-inch vertical.
I think he's better than Ezekiel Elliott.
I agree. Just from that is he's got the film, he's got the size, he's got more speed. He's amazing.
Right.
Crazy. So he was the star of the Combine. But, guys, there were also some other running backs in the event that we do not trade Now, Marty Herney has been known to trade a future, right? Hey, is that like if you're going to do it, this is the podcast you're going to talk about it on the Panther on the fan podcast is the one we talk about trading up to 2. Maybe the Giants will pass on them and we can just trade up to 3. See, here's that was the other thing about the Browns that I forgot to mention is that you only have the Giants after you. Is that the Colts are not going to take a quarterback with
unless somebody trades in.
Now that is true. So all right. Combine was deep at running back. There was the Georgia running backs are showing off when it comes to Nick Chubb as well as Sony Michel. And then I believe who was there was one of the LS is it Darius is it Geis?
Geis.
Yeah.
From LSU.
He's an absolute stud.
He's too slight of build for me. I don't think he's a Carolina back because there's not enough of him.
What's his measurables?
All right, so he is 5'9", or about 5'10". No, hold on, I'm getting lost here. He's 5'10". He's 224 pounds.
Oh, he's not that small.
And he ran a 4.49 on his first attempt, a 4.60 on his second attempt. Yeah, he had a 31-inch vertical jump.
I mean, he's Leonard Fournette Jr. I mean, he's
well. He only put up 15 on the bench. So I mean, he's okay. Is that I thought he looked good, but I think that Nick Chubb is the one that I like the most.
Better suited for our offense.
Well, 227 pounds. He had a 4.52 40, 29 on the bench. Like this dude's strong, and fast shuttle. Good vertical, very good vertical. So he's athletic for being a pretty stocky boy.
The question is, how high do you go? Do you take him at 24?
No.
Right.
I don't think you take him at 24.
Right. I mean, you'd take him at 56 or 58, wherever we're picking. Definitely. But 24, probably not. But, I mean, let's face it. If we get a stud running back, that's probably the biggest impact year one that we would get from any draft pick this year.
If we get through round 1 and we can trade a pick or 2, probably 2, to get back into the top half
of the second
round 2 and grab Chubb, that might be worth it.
Yeah, you don't know how they're going to fall. Maybe I don't think that. So I think that what is our picks? I think we pick in the 50s.
Yeah, like 56 or 58, 56.
Yeah, so it's going to be hard for Chubb or Sony Michel to fall to that mark. So I think you would have to see some movement there. Now but there are some guys that you have a little depth at this position group in comparison to some other ones. Now, let's talk on the other side is that there are some positions that have zero depth. The defensive end position, I feel like, was particularly thin in this combine, as well as the offensive line, the big boys. Now, 2 years ago, the big boys stole the show, and you had Vic Beasley, you had Dante Fowler. You had some guys like that. You also had, I think the year before, who was that? Come on, South Carolina, best defensive end in the league.
Well, you had Joey Bosa also from.
But we're talking Houston. Played for played for South Carolina. Joey, that's your guy. You should. We'll go to Slim J. Slim J in the chat. He'll have it in just a second. I don't know why I can't think of his name. I do this every week. Clowney. Kevin Ketchy got it. Clowney. Yeah, I mean, so you had this moment where you had these big defensive ends come about. Then you also had another time where we've been excited about potential offensive linemen, these guys that actually a lot of them have not panned out. Guys like Flowers and some various guys.
But there was one last year that did real well, and that was Cam Robinson.
Right. You had some names here, and even last year was considered a thinner year I feel like this year are guys that are nobody I'm interested in their names at all.
Well, now if he does fall, and I'm starting to see him fall a little bit, maybe even making it down to around 20 at this point, is McGlinchey out of Notre Dame. That would be a guy I'd be all over.
Okay.
But it's a very thin draft when it comes to offensive line, for sure.
Joey, did you get to see Orlando Brown run his 40?
I did not. I know they signed him with the sundial.
I think he's just now finishing up, right?
Not Mel Mayock, but Mike Mayock said it was a historically bad time, and the guy looked like. He just wasn't run. I mean, he was doing a running motion. My son told me this. Somebody was telling me weird events at the Olympics, and that somebody said that they used to have power walking.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And if that's the case, then Orlando Brown is on the power walking team after his combine performance was terrible. So no, the defensive end, don't expect a lot of help and instant contributors or any contributors on the defensive side of the ball, really, that are going to be with our target or that we will target. Offensive line, maybe some guys at center. Ragnu. No, it was Price who hurt a pec.
He didn't have a good combine, though.
He tore a pec, tore a muscle, or partially tore a pec on the bench press.
On his first rep at the combine, tears his pec. That's just awful, man.
So maybe you can get a guy like that who has fallen for some other reason and steal him like in the second. And that would be interesting. But to me, the stories were on the defensive. The talent is really and truly on the defensive side of the ball that I saw from the underwear Olympics. Joey, your big story was Shaquem Griffin, right?
Yeah, I really, really liked him. I read the letter he sent to all the NFL GMs, and it was really, it impresses you to know where that young man came from and what he had to go through to make it to where he is. And it is a feel-good story. I think he is capable of moving positions to safety and being a really, really impact player at safety. He has great speed, good size, and he's a hustler, man. Did
he run like a 4.3 40 or something crazy like that?
4.38. Which is the fastest linebacker
in 15 years.
Yeah.
15 years. So I really believe he could be a natural at safety. You know, Carolina has moved defensive backs and made them linebackers. I'm talking about doing the opposite in this case. And look, can this team do some good publicity? Wouldn't it be a great story if the Carolina Panthers draft him and make him into a Pro Bowl player? I mean, we need some good press. With all the negativity we've had going on recently, I think, it would be a good move for several reasons.
So, Slim J says that Shaquem Griffin can be a linebacker or safety. Carl D says, can you imagine if we got a good first-round pick and then Shaquem and Price? What a draft class that would be. Mm-hmm. Mel, there are the thing about Shaquem Griffin is that story. Boy, you're talking about like just carrying on the keep pounding type mantra. Right. And for those, and I'm not aware of why and what the circumstance is, but Shaquem Griffin does not. He only has one hand. There's some legitimate questions surrounding your ability to play at the highest level with a disability, I guess you would call it, or whatever the right.
That's fair.
So I personally, and Joe and I disagree on this, and we talked about it today, I believe. I think you stick with him at linebacker because, I mean, hey, God bless the kid, and I want him on our team. His mentality and his emotions are infectious. and he's a great athlete, and he's excelled everywhere he's been, and I think he will in the NFL. But a one-handed safety, somebody who is designed to intercept passes, I think that's too tall of an order.
Well, maybe with free safety, there would be, maybe the strong safety that's more legitimate of a transition.
He would definitely be more of a box kind of safety.
Especially if he's coming from linebacker.
But then you're not necessarily using that 4.38 speed as much either.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying is with his speed, he can cover if the need arises. He's able to. But, you do want him playing up more in the box. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, even at the very least, he's going to make one heck of a special teams player.
They said this. All right, so fun fact, Slim J says that he has more interceptions in college than Worley and Bradbury have in the pros, as I assume. I added some details in there. Then he also
different levels, though.
Yeah,
you
true.
are talking about different levels.
He also said this, is he could take over when Thomas Davis retires. Now, to me, though, the only thing that would be like I would be upset about any of this, even if it worked out, is like, what then was Shaq Thompson for? That we need Shaq Thompson to at least give us 2 years or a year as a starter before he moves on and does something or whatever we have to do. Or else you got to be upset, be a little disappointed just in how it's worked out.
Well, you do need 3 linebackers, though.
You do. You have to have 3.
Right. So, I mean.
Yeah, you do.
Imagine having a linebacker that have 4.3 speed.
Right. I mean.
Like, I don't know. I don't even know what you would do with that. Like, is that you would just be like, go around everybody. He would just like blitz.
You could say, okay, you drop down, play third linebacker. We'll bring in, another safety to play over the top, and you fill in kind of like an elephant position to go between linebacker and safety, depending on, what defense we're in.
Okay, so all right, what else? Now let's move on to the other positions on the defense. That to me, I think the cornerbacks, as well as specifically speaking of safety, were especially good in this group. The safeties, Mel, you said were running like corners. The corners were sometimes catching like wide receivers, it seemed, and at other times they were just getting popped right. Did you see that receiver get banged right in the head with that on the gauntlet? The poor fella took a dang football to the temple and just kept running with it. Good for him to stay with that. But the safeties look particularly appealing to the point where I fully believe that safety is a realistic first-round pick for us. And I think that there are a couple of guys that I think that potentially will slip a little bit because of some of the other focus in the draft when it comes to the quarterbacks and the action early on. Mm-hmm. If you are going to move up, what about what's the guy? He's going to be, everybody says he's a top 10 pick.
Derwin James?
Yes.
Yeah, out of Miami. If he's there at 24, he's the pick, but I don't see him there at 24, but you never know. Stranger things have happened.
What about not number 15 from Alabama, but the other guy? I think his last name's Harrison.
Oh yeah, I've done a write up on Ronnie Harrison. He would be a great pick at that.
At 24, you think, or is that too high?
No, I'd take him at 24. He's a solid player.
What's his weakness?
He was not the go-to guy there in Alabama.
That was Minka, right?
Right. But Ronnie Harrison's the guy I heard his name all over the place when I watched Alabama games. He has a nose for the ball. He may not have the speed that Minka, the sideline to sideline coverage ability that Minka does, the sheer athleticism, but he's got a nose for the ball. He's the guy that's going to be, he reminds me of the guy Earl Thomas. He kind of reminds me of an Earl Thomas type of a guy.
Okay,
he's just always got his nose there.
Earl Thomas 9 times out of 10.
Absolutely.
Yeah, is that I think that there's some good players at safety, and I think that we should be considering some of these names, like you said. The Derwin, you said his name was Derwin James.
Yeah.
That's what I believe it was. Slim J says Derwin James has some medical checks he needs to get past.
Right.
And it was, I think, Carl D that said he's the only one. No, Slim J said he's the only one worth taking at 24. I think the Minka Fitzpatrick, he's a top 10 pick or top.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
he's crazy good. But the thing that I'm saying is these guys, we keep calling them top 10 picks, but there's only 10 spots.
Right.
And that's what I keep hearing is guys saying that there's a top 10 picks. But if you throw in Bradley Chubb, you throw in Minka Fitzpatrick, a couple of quarterbacks. Yeah. Is that there's only 10 spots.
But it is a deep safety draft. You got the guy out of Wake Forest. You've also got my guy, Armani Watts. I mean, it's a deep safety draft. That
Is he from West
round.
Virginia?
No, where's he from? Is it Arkansas? I did a whole write-up on him, but I'm drawing a blank right now.
Okay.
My thing, too, is that now I didn't see any
Texas
corner.
A&M.
So we're talking about this, too, is the defensive backs look good. There was a lot of depth there. I don't know how many top tier guys there are. I feel like there's a lot of good second and third round value in a lot of these places. Yeah. But who are these elite guys? This draft, I think, is missing those components. You see it where you get only a few guys are sticking out at wide receiver, but nobody seems like a lock like a Mike Evans seemed like he was going to be in the NFL. I don't see the locks at these positions. So the guy that everybody, and I'm going to say, I'll talk some more about it, is that my guy, though, I found a hidden gem. My guy is a small school guy, Danny Johnson. Danny Johnson attended Southern University. He had 7 interceptions last year. He's a 4.0 student. He ran a 4.4 40. He had a 35-inch vertical jump. And what attracted me to him, he's only 5'10", 185 pounds. So he's not going to be an elite talent, or at least just based on the physical measurables. We don't know how he actually performed in the NFL. But what stood out to me was how fluid he was in turning his hips when they do that drill where they look like they're dancing down the line, and the guy's instructing them which way to turn and when to turn while they're backpedaling, and he looks so smooth doing that. Guys, where do you see, is this just clearly where this draft is at on the defensive backside and safety and running back, and those are the 3 positions, and maybe quarterback as well?
It is, but you know what's interesting? This is when you get into a philosophical debate. You know, there is a thought that you take the weakest position early in the draft, because once you get past the people that are there at the offensive line position, you're not getting anybody worth a darn later in the draft, right?
True.
So do you invest in the weaker position groups early in the draft, and then wait and get a mid-round running back and safety because it's so deep? You're still getting talent there.
Interesting. Lots of things to follow. Tons of news. It's good to have some people out there, even if they don't have the pads on. We get to go and gawk and over how fast and big and strong these people are, and fantasize about these men in underwear on our teams.
Well, you know what happens next Tuesday. So next week we'll be talking about the opening of free agency.
Yeah, that is
I think we'll start talking, or Tuesday it starts, right?
Right.
Yeah, and we'll have the earliest news. You can get that coverage here on the C3 Carolina Panthers podcast. Guys, let's go ahead and jump into the cat calls. I know some people have a lot of things to say about all of these things as well.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty you shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
Hey guys, this is Maurice Carter calling from
mind to listen. Talking about the draft, I want to do something different. I want to take that quarterback Jackson, Lamar Jackson, and draft him. Maybe in the second round or third round if he's still there, as a wide receiver. And what do you think about that? We need a wide receiver, and we can also put him behind Gilbert as our potential quarterback when Cam retires. All right, thank you guys.
All right, thanks for calling into the show. You know, I was going to say that call was about to get bounced when I was thinking that he was going to say and give up on Cam. I thought that was going to be the next thing. Is that I don't foresee that individual wanting to make that transition though.
Right.
No, he's not. He won't. He won't do that.
He already said he won't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it is that you will, if he does struggle in the league, you could see that as a potential opportunity for him in the future. I think though that we get too caught up in the scout speak a little bit, and I go back to Teddy Bridgewater. And don't forget, Teddy Bridgewater is still out there. I mean, he's coming back off a devastating knee injury, but
he's afraid at Louisville as well,
and he's a free agent, Teddy Bridgewater.
So, all right, let's keep moving.
Hey, C3, this new kid on the block. Born and raised South Carolina on the North Carolina border, and living in Chicago for the last 8 years. So, in a city of 11.3 million people, I'm one of like 10 Panthers fans here. But I rock the
thanks for representing
the black, white, and blue whenever I can. So thanks for the podcast. You guys have helped quite a bit dealing with this shitty Chicago traffic. So it's been great to get the latest news and opinions and whatnot. I won't dive too deep, but just want to say, as far as the CJ and Coleman cut, CJ, yeah, we saw that coming. Coleman, one, we can debate about ability, that kind of thing, but and declines, etc. But I think in an off season where there's been so much turbulence already, to cut someone who's a proven leader in the locker room worries me a good bit.
I agree 100%.
Don't really agree with that cut. And as of this morning, Jonathan Stewart, again, sucks because he's been around for so long, but he hasn't really been productive in quite some time. And it'll give us maybe another look at Artis Payne, that kind of thing. But it does cause another problem as far as depth goes. On top of that, I'm trying to be real positive with this Hurney thing. I'm really, really trying. And then as soon as I look at like who he's drafted in the first round and everything, and I'm feeling good, he opens his mouth like he did this morning in the interview with ESPN and says, our offensive line last year was top 5 in the league. No, Hurney, it wasn't. Cam is getting laid out over and over and over again, and I really don't think he's had a good offensive line since he's been a Panther. And the one time he had an okay offensive line, he was MVP. So we got to protect our investment. On top of that, I agree with everybody as far as the safeties, and we just cut Coleman. So who knows what we're going to do there. The draft, I really don't know who we're going to go after, what positions I think tight priority. I was having the opinion that we needed to increase the offensive line, strengthen our offensive line, protect Cam so he can do what he does. But now we have absolutely nothing in safety. Receivers I actually don't feel that bad about because, Samuel and Bird both showed flashes. So I got cut off. First time.
All right, so here we'll get back to the end of that call in 1 second. A lot to unpack there. Agree 100% about Kurt Coleman, and especially when you see this is that like Gano is going to be like he's getting like $6 million or $5 million or whatever it is, and then you're like, we're going to save $2.75 million with Coleman. In the best case scenario, he's a post June 1st cut, and it's like $4 million or something. But there is a question about depth there, and I do agree. I don't feel terrible at wide receiver, as in I do if this is the current juncture moving forward, if we just stayed with who we got. But, you know, there's opportunities to improve in free agency. That is a real reality in this offseason going forward. Safety, though, is a bigger concern. Doesn't seem like there is many options out there.
No, I totally agree. I mean, that is a move that, at least at first blush, does not make a lot of sense to me. I mean, I like Kearney, and I'm glad he's our GM, but I'm not big on that move there. I mean, you saw the Saints picked him up at $6 million a year without hesitating.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good chunk of change too.
They were hurting in the secondary last year at safety, so they saw an opportunity to pick him up, and they did.
Yeah, and with the offensive line comments as well, I think this is that I agree that, you know, the offensive line, at least individually last year, was not terrible. Matt Khalil being the weakest link, the kind of inconsistency that was brought at the center position because of because of Ryan Khalil,
yeah.
Right?
That was our biggest problem last year. Really, was Ryan Khalil not playing.
Yeah, but Tyler Larson, he did okay. I mean, it wasn't the worst line we've seen in Carolina. Let's just put it that way. It wasn't the best. I wouldn't go as far as, I don't think they played as cohesive as top five. I will give you this, too, is that we truly don't know if Jonathan Stewart was part of that decline, what another back would have been able to do behind that if you would have seen something better. But we didn't see a ton out of Christian McCaffrey when it came. I mean, even though the next gen stat people will tell you how he was great against the box and 10-man fronts and he carried all this, is that so we will need to see improvement. Let's finish this call up right here.
Got to talking. New kid on the block. I guess that's my nickname. But my name's Christian Spencer. So again, in Chicago, I'll finish my thoughts here. So receivers, I don't feel as bad because I think a healthy Curtis Samuel and a healthy Damiere Byrd and a decent free agent pickup will be fine. Running back, now we don't have a power back, so what the hell is going to happen there? And if we apparently have the top five offensive line, then why did we have such a garbage run game last season? So I'm trying to be positive with this Hurney thing. I'm trying to be positive with a lot of different things, ownership, etc.
Tony Dunn, Mel Mayock, that freaking Puerto Rican Joe Riolano. Tonight is the night where I do what I've been threatening to do for a while now, and the time is now.
Sammy Watkins,
let's jump
here
into
it comes.
The first edition of Better Know a Potential Panthers free agent signing. That's right, boys. We're going to talk about the guy that none of you are really high on, but I feel that you need to be. We're going to be talking about Sammy Watkins.
Yep,
it was just announced that LaMarcus Joyner, the safety for the LA Rams, is going to be franchise tagged. Now, the Rams still might work out a deal for Sammy, so this is up in the air. But if Sammy hits the free agent market, we need to sign him. And there are reasons why we need to do this. So for one, let's understand that he has basically had 2,000-yard receiving seasons when he was healthy. And during that time, he's put up better numbers than any Panther receiver has had since Steve Smith. He has that long speed stretch the field ability. And we know that Noah Turner, that is a huge part of his offense. He wants to do that. Cam Newton has a cannon for an arm, and Sammy has the ability to make those plays downfield. And he doesn't drop the ball, which has been a huge problem that our receivers had last year. Another thing, Sammy Watkins, especially on the Rams last year, would routinely draw double coverage, meaning there was always two guys on him. Now, you might think that's a negative. If there are two dudes on him all the time, then that means the window to throw to isn't going to be as open. But think of it this way. We're going to have a 6'4" Devin Funchess who's gotten better in his running routes going down the field. Curtis Samuel, is going to be coming back, and you always have to watch out for the speed on him. And Christian McCaffrey has proven to be just as much of a threat as a receiver as he was as a pure running back in college. So that opens up our offense to get things going. If anything, it's going to make them more hesitant to put two people on Sammy Watkins. So, number 3, Sammy Watkins can run block his ass off. And I'm not talking about Kelvin Benjamin, because Kelvin Benjamin would do nothing but get holding penalties. This was not a problem with Sammy. We want to run the ball, and Sammy knows how to block for his running back. Ask Todd Gurley, because he helped Todd Gurley out tremendously. Now, I can already see where the last... Yep, I got cut off. Let's try this again. One of the things that I already know that a lot of people in the chat room and a lot of you guys have been hesitant about is his injury history. And I believe that this is such a misnomer. It's almost a false narrative.
Oh.
So this is what I'll say. His first 2 seasons in the NFL, not only did he have inconsistent quarterback play, but he was very productive, okay? Then he had one injury-ridden season in 2016, which, by the way, it was a foot injury. So it's not like we're talking about an ACL injury, which is really tough to come back from, and like Allen Robinson is having to do, which is a bigger question mark in my opinion. Sammy had a foot injury, and by the way, the Carolinas have the most renowned foot surgeons and doctors in the world.
You stretching there,
man.
Our podiatrist game is off the chain in Charlotte.
That is routinely having different kinds of injuries. They're not hamstring injuries, so they're not going to inhibit his speed and his playmaking ability down the field. And he's a weapon. And yes, there is a ton of untapped potential yet to be fulfilled in Sammy
I think he's a Sammy Watkins fan.
The final thing that I'll point out is I do not like the idea. While our team has so many spots to fill, so many places to get younger, I don't want a wide receiver in the first round. I believe that's the waste of a first-round draft pick. And I see a lot of mock drafts and a lot of people having us taking a receiver in the first round. I like a lot of the receivers coming out in this draft. I don't think that any of them are really worth a first-round talent, except for maybe Calvin Ridley, and he didn't necessarily impress at the combine, but I still don't think he's going to fall down.
Nah, he disappointed.
Anyway.
He disappointed.
I say, if you sign Sammy Watkins, he still has a ton of potential left to be fulfilled.
It's a great question. Do you take Ridley at 24?
Listen, he was a high draft pick for a reason. He still has the potential to be a star wide receiver in the NFL. He's only 24 years old. This is our guy. I'm pounding the table for Sammy. Now, he might not end up leaving the Rams. They might sign him to a deal. But I'm telling you, do not be disappointed if we pick up the former Clemson star receiver. Well, my long-winded ass is finally done. Love you, boys. Keep pounding.
Hello.
All right, fantastic call. I do want to point out that the fact that the Charlotte foot game is so good. You know, they got their technique down. They don't be tickling or nothing, like Samuel L. Jackson would say. I have foot massage. I don't be tickling or nothing. But I will say too, would you ever rub rub another man's feet?
No, unless I'm a doctor and I'm getting paid big money for it.
No, if Cam Newton calls up and said, "Will you rub my feet?" I got to.
I will.
Both you guys would.
You're right. You're right. I'll be like, give me them big, beautiful feet right over here.
What kind of money do you think he's going to command?
Who, Sammy?
Yeah.
15.
A year?
No way. You think it's that much?
Well, the franchise tag is right there, so he's going to be looking for that neighborhood. I guarantee it.
Man, that seems like so much.
Yeah, I wouldn't sign him for that. I just wouldn't. I've got too many friends that are Buffalo Bills fans that were so frustrated with him. So
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
I
and
don't
it wasn't
think
just
that-
it wasn't just 1 year. I mean, he had screws in his foot that gave him problems over multiple years. I mean,
Right.
there were some real
We were
issues
glad
there.
to
Now,
see him leave.
Well, I don't know. Is that I think that the injuries are a concern when it comes to Sammy. I think another thing that was kind of worrisome to me was like what Joey mentioned a couple weeks ago, and that is you just don't see him getting you just don't see him being like Julio when he is healthy.
he doesn't play as fast as his 40 was. He
Or
ran
it
a
doesn't
4.40.
seem like it. Right now, you're talking about this is that Julio gets 14 a year on average. Devontae Adams gets 14 a year on average. AJ Green gets 15.
Yep.
So you're probably talking somewhere if T.Y. Hilton and Alshon Jeffrey just got 13.
So you're talking in the 15 range, give or take.
Maybe 13. Maybe Alshon Jeffrey numbers is what he would get. All right, we got Carl D. I'm pretty sure up last.
Hello, Cat fans. Hello to Cat Chronicles podcast. How y'all doing tonight?
We're doing well,
Doing
Carl D.
Tony's? Mel, if you're back this week.
I'm back,
guest
baby.
If you're here, or special guest if it's more than one. And also, let me put the weekend Joe. Anyway, this is Carlton Davis, better known as Cardi. Today, I'm going to focus on the receivers after watching the combine. Some sleepers, well, they're not really sleepers you guys tell me what you think as usual. DJ Clark, LSU, a 4.3, 40-inch vertical leap, 10-9 broad jump.
Was that DJ Shark?
Yeah. That's pretty impressive. If we're going to get a receiver, get a big receiver with speed. The other impressive one was, what's his name? EQ, they call him. St. Brown from Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah, the Equinamius.
A 4.40.
Yeah, Equinamius.
Both guys seem to have pretty good hands on them, and I think they'll be a good addition to us. I was a little disappointed in Ridley because he did a good 4.4, but his cone, vertical, and broad jumps were not that good. And Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
So do y'all take Ridley at 24?
40, but other workouts that wasn't bad.
What's that, Mel?
Do you take Calvin Ridley if he falls to 24, or do you
No.
pass? Are you serious that you pass on a guy like that because of the Underwear Olympics? The guy was the best wide receiver.
I pass on that because to me it feels like we have that guy on our team already.
He is 6 foot. He's only 6 foot tall. 6.5. No, wait, hold on. No, I'm looking at. Yeah, he's only 6 foot tall.
Mm-hmm.
He's 189 pounds. He is kind of fast. I mean, 4.43. He did show that. He just kind of looked clunky out there.
But
he didn't look natural.
He is a very, very good route runner. I will say that about him. But man, I just feel like we have a couple of guys on our team that are him.
Interesting. His stock did not go up at the combine.
No, it didn't. But he was a top 10 considering going.
He was the number one receiver into the draft going into the combine.
Yeah.
I don't know that he is anymore after the combine.
Right. Now, I agree his stock's going to drop, but to me, that's the guy you want. When you're at 24 and because of the Underwear Olympics, he's no longer top 10, but he's a top 10 football player.
Yeah.
Right.
But we'll get back to Carlton D. I didn't mean to cut him off.
All right. Let's go back.
So I don't know about them. One thing I am happy about, we've been talking about having a replacement for Ryan. I think now with the injury to the Price kid out of Ohio State, I think he might drop to us.
I like that.
In the later rounds, and we
He
might
won't get past second
steal
round.
our future center of the future. So, you guys tell me what you think.
Great call.
About these.
Yeah, I always.
Yeah,
like
I think that's a good thing. I think the Equinemius St. Brown from Notre Dame, he showed some speed. I thought that Cortland Sutton's stock went down as well. Again, he ran a 4.54 40. And one of the things that was a concern with him is that he did not seem to get a lot of separation on tape. He did put up a lot of yards. Now, again, what I think Mel is bringing up is a realistic point, is that with Ridley, the combine numbers seem to contradict the film. Right? But with Sutton, the combine numbers seem to support what you see on film. I do think there are some things that if you're Calvin Ridley, you didn't creep into the top 15. If you were on the borderline, you probably crept out of it.
Yeah,
so,
no, that's true. He created some doubt in people's minds. And top 15, you need a surefire thing.
I think the DJ Shark is, and that was, I mean, he ran fast as all get out, 4.34, and that is someone.
I mean, all around. He did. He put up good numbers all around.
He had a 40-inch vertical. He's 6 foot. I can't read these numbers. It says 6 foot. I guess he's 6'2". Is that right?
That sounds right.
Okay, so maybe Ridley is taller than that than I was giving him credit for. Maybe he's 6'4". The idea no, he's not. The thing though is that I don't think that you're going to bless anybody because of their combine numbers, and maybe the combine only can make you fall unless you're a guy that's kind of a hidden guy that can kind of creep up because of your athleticism. I think that DJ Shark, though, to me, is the guy that had the most promising outlook at that combine at receiver. Fast, big, and is somebody that was highlighted by earlier when we were talking about when Cody was featuring these guys. He's brought DJ Shark up as well. So a lot of cool things to be thinking about. And next week we're going to be talking about free agency. I think that's where the answer is. I don't think that the first round draft pick in this draft is going to be a lock to be a contributor right away. You never know if DJ Shark is going to be the next. Who was that guy from Ohio State that we liked a lot that went to
the Jets? Smith. Derek Smith or something
Dalvin.
Yeah,
something like that.
Well, you remember John Ross, who went to the Bengals because he could just fly, but he's didn't do anything.
Right.
It's not a track sport, right? I mean, it's about running routes. It's about leverage. It's about knowing how to get open. And a guy that I want to keep my eye on, not for the first round, but for a little bit later in the rounds, is DJ Moore out of Maryland. I mean, that's a guy that was compared to Steve Smith in terms of the way he attacks the ball down the field and his aggressive style of play and his heart and his passion.
Devin Smith. That's who it was. Devin Smith.
Yeah.
Slim J said he'd take.
I think Moore is
Ridley.
the guy you can look to later in the draft and say, if he's hanging around there, maybe that's the guy we pick up.
If he's there in the third round, I'm taking him. Honestly,
all right.
I mean, it's not too late.
All right, let's go ahead and let's get to the ice up picks of the week. I'll go first. And my ice up pick is going to go to I want to do this is my ice up pick is going to a guy that Cody Lashney called in and liked a lot, and that was Josh Jackson out of Iowa. I thought that he particularly hurt his prospects at the combine. And where I'm going to say this is that what was really strange to me is about a guy that was in the regard of like a Lattimore type talent or more maybe. I think a lot of people have compared him to Marcus Peters. Is one guy is that a lot of people have compared him to. He looked just so awkward and uncomfortable in his back pedal. And I don't know if it was something in his head or what was going on, but they had to stop him in his drills and be like, no, do it this way, go again. He just looked funny, like he could not run backwards and backpedal. And not that you can't improve and that you don't pick a guy, is that I was just disappointed, or I felt sorry for the dude. I was like, what is going on? It seems something that was funky. So he seemed to. So my ice up pick goes to Josh Jackson this week.
I still like him.
Yeah,
He's 8 interceptions, 26.
Maybe he turned out to be a safety though.
Maybe not. There you go. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's.
All right. Who wants up? Who wants next?
I'll go next. My ice up pick this week goes to the mayor of Nashville. She was elected and ended up having an affair with her head of security. And his name is Robert Frost. I'm icing her up because she announced her resignation and went and took a picture, had a really nice mugshot that she was almost proud of. But this is why she gets my ice up. This is what she posted this to Twitter. While my time as your mayor concludes today, my unwavering love and sincere affection for this wonderful city and its great people shall never come to an end. And she said, it has been my honor and has been my privilege of my entire life to have had the blessing of this opportunity to be your mayor. I love you. And all I can say is, she might have said that, but her actions were doing nothing but spitting into the face of her constituents. Not only did she have this affair, but she was ordered to reimburse the city $11,000 in restitution because of
because she was doing it in the hotel rooms paid by the taxpayer.
Right, on the taxpayer's dime. She and her
married?
boyfriend, yes.
Oh.
Her husband has talked in support of her on social media. He's a teacher, a university professor. And the wife of the head of security has filed for divorce. So, there you go. Really, 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 when you go to vote, people, you got to make sure you know who you're voting for. Make sure that they, that they are who they say they are. And it can be hard, but just know that your vote really does mean something. It does matter. So I am icing her up for saying that she loves the city.
I see Professor's mind working there.
Is that tweet. I thought she was going to say, I love this so, I want to wrap my legs around this city. I love it so much.
Right, I'm going to go safety on the city's dime. Really.
Is that, hey, we all stumble. I mean, there's a lot of people. I'm not going to be overly critical about people and the mistakes they make in their personal life at times. But, sometimes it's just better to bow out and not say anything.
Right.
I love Jerry Richardson, right?
I did. Oh, I have actually one. I did forget an ice up pick that I wanted to, and I don't know if it's an ice up pick or a compliment or what's going on, but Kraft from the Patriots owner. What's his name? Is it Bob Kraft?
Robert. Yeah.
Robert Kraft.
Yeah.
Did you see that his girlfriend that he's been dating, who is this like girl in her she is Robert Kraft's girlfriend, had a baby.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
And that it's not his, obviously. Well, I say obviously, is that her name is Ricky Nolander, and she is a young A-lister. Like she's pretty good looking. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, but typical, not even that great looking. Just kind of blonde, skinny, just yeah. But that she had a baby, and it's not Bob Kraft's, and they're like he's like happy for him. So my question is like, do you ice this guy up for this, or do you just clap about it? And just say like, I mean, really, are you? I mean, is this just realistic and real? And I mean, maybe he likes to watch. Who knows?
Oh my!
But anything that makes the Patriots squeamish, I love. So you and your bastard child, or your non-bastard child, her bastard child, your bastard organization, New England Patriots. I said.
Now, Professor, some things in this world should be sacred.
Okay.
Right. People do screw up. I let it pass. People take the Lord's name in vain, which is terrible, but I let it pass. Shouldn't, but hey, people make their own choices. But there are some things that I don't forgive. And one thing that I don't forgive, if you got the picture, you bring it up.
That's right. I almost forgot your dang ice up pick. Holy cow. I was just about to leave you hanging. Hold on. I got it right here. Go ahead.
And you thought I was talking to you about something being sacred with Bob Kraft and all.
I know. That's what I was like. I was like, did I go too far? Did I go too far? So
talking about the mayor in Nashville and wrapping legs around the city. Did you go too far? No. All of that is not too far. But what is too far, especially to us North Carolinians, is when you start talking about barbecue. And then when you start talking about Brooklyn barbecue, which you know what this is? I mean, the website Munchies puts out this picture of what I heard described as a prison tray with some shoe leather on it. Right. And they say that this barbecue is changing and taking over the world from the website Munchies. That's gone too far, man. And when you got Southerners that take pride in how it's done, and then you got folks in Kansas City, folks in San Antonio that came out in force when this picture came out. And you know what it looked like something that came out of the story that the freaking Puerto Rican talked about, these joggers running through Colorado in the backyard.
Matt Cooper.
Right. That's what it looks like. But what it actually is it's brisket that was rubbed with espresso rub and left on for an extended period of time. And this is something that has caught some popularity in some third world types of countries too.
Third world countries? Yeah. What, terrible brisket?
Yeah, exactly. I guess because
they're so hungry they'll eat anything, even if it's poorly cooked brisket.
Right. I mean, this stuff. I mean, how do you put that out and say this is taking over the world? I mean, did you get the picture up?
Yeah, it's up. It's up. I would like to point out a couple of things about this picture, Mel. One is the squished Food Lion dinner rolls that are on the plate, and then the brisket looks like,
and they're not even brown.
The brisket looks like Joe and I, when we used to be roommates in college, Joe used to like to occasionally pick up a London broil and grill that as like kind of a giant steak for us, right? And we would slice like this. This looked like if Joe and I drank a 12-pack and fell asleep and woke up the next day and that London broil was on the grill.
Right. So, guys, I went out and I bought a big green egg, if y'all know what that is, a big smoker.
Oh, that's the best.
So the next time you guys come to Charlotte, we're going to put some real barbecue on there and smoke it all day long, and I guarantee you it's going to be head and shoulders above this. So, these guys went too far. So
J-Dub says it looks like Euro strips.
Exactly, J-Dub. Yes.
So you say ice up. Here's a quick lesson on barbecue, folks. If you're from Eastern North Carolina, barbecue is a noun. It is a thing, and it's only pork in Eastern North Carolina. I understand you people that are west of us believe that you barbecue things. right? So I understand that, but here it's slow cooked pork and soaked in vinegar.
There is no better barbecue than in Eastern North Carolina.
Yeah, it's pretty good. We got bees here, bro. Good luck trying to beat bees. The second thing, I do want to tell you a quick story about a green egg. Is my buddy has had a green egg forever, and these things, and he has like that high end one, like probably you got the big one, which is very expensive. He one night he would go on all these different experiments, all these cooking conquests. They would be like, we're gonna smoke this brisket for 72 hours at this, you know what I mean? They would do these crazy things. So one night he got the idea of, let's cook steaks and try to replicate the Ruth Chris steak, where it's like 1 billion degrees and you just cook it for a few seconds. So they got this green egg pumping, dude, for like 6 hours. It was at like 900 degrees or some you know what I'm saying? Like it was, so he had his green egg set in a wooden table like it was made for green eggs. This green egg, we were just drinking beer, hanging out, and he was just running as hot as he could. It got so hot, the table combusted.
Oh my God.
Like the table caught on fire. We had to put the table out. But there was no open flame. Like the thing just got so hot, the wood went from wood to wood on fire. Like it was crazy, dude. The big green egg.
Do you remember at the house you had on, it was
Summit Street?
Yes. Remember you had a smoker there?
Yes.
Do you remember well, I remember this. You had gotten a deer ham.
Oh yeah, that's right. We got it was the back strip or whatever. What's it called? We got, because it's where you, that piece of, it's like a tenderloin for deer.
And do you remember it was, no, I'm talking about the deer ham that we got. It was like the back ham.
Oh, like a leg.
Yeah.
Like an ass.
It was so big that a piece of it was sticking out the side of the smoker lid. It all the way into the smoker. And we cooked that thing for, God, it must have been 8 hours. And it would never close because we had a hunk of the legs hanging out the back.
That sounds like you guys.
Oh, man.
But I tell you what, it was freaking good. When we went to eat it, was fantastic. But it was just so funny.
The best stories,
Well, I'm trying a salmon this weekend on the Big Green Egg. We'll see how it goes.
That's gonna be great.
Awesome. All right, guys. It's the C3 Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. Every Tuesday night, we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions. Joe Riolano, it's good talking with you. Mel Mayock, it's fun catching up. Next week, we'll be back, and we'll be talking about free agency. That's where you got to be involved in this conversation. The Cat Calls line is 252-228-5098. Call and get your voice heard. The new kid on the block brought it tonight. I want to hear from all of you. Thanks for joining us in the YouTube chat. We have plenty to talk about each and every week. We'll see you next week.
Keep pounding.
Good night.